In this video, we will show you how to replace your tailgate handle on this Dodge Ram. This will be located mounted directly to your tailgate. Let's get into it. Okay friends, let's get started on our job. To start removing the bezel from this area, you'll find that you have 4 locking clips, 2 along the bottom and 2 along the top. We'll be dealing with the 2 along the bottom and then we'll roll this out of place. To do this, we'll be using a plastic trim tool so we can be as careful as possible around the paint. I'm just going to try to stick this right in here. Gently start pulling away. I don't want to try to break anything. The next thing I'll do is use a small pocket screwdriver. In approximately this area, there's going to be a clip. We'll get underneath here and gently pry on that to start separating this. You can tell it's coming right out now. We'll do the same over here on the other side. Gently start prying on that. Use our small pocket screwdriver and press on that locking tab. Take hold of the bezel and carefully remove it. With that bezel out of the way, let's have a look inside of the tailgate. On each side of this handle, you're going to find that you have a rod that makes its way all the way across the tailgate down to each one of the latches. Now these rods will be held in place with a locking tab. On the passenger side, the locking tab has a hook that faces downward, so we will have to pry it up, and then we can remove the rod from inside of the handle. Now when you take this rod out, you want to be careful it doesn't fall down inside of the tailgate. So once we have this popped free, before we pull it out, we'll use a little bit of electrical tape, wrap it around that rod just so we have that held in place. Make our way over to the other side and do the exact same thing, aside from this hook facing upward rather than down. To remove these clips, you might have to pry a little bit. If that's the case, we'll be using a plastic trim tool. Tell that one popped right up and out of there. Now I'll just use a little bit of tape. I'm going to wrap it around that rod and then just bring it right up here. Once I've done that, I'll pull the rod out of this handle. Doesn't have to be anything special there. Let's take hold of that rod and slide it out. At this point, as you can tell, it is separated and the rod did not fall down inside the tailgate. It's still accessible. Let's do the same to the other rod. Both rods are disconnected. At this point, we can reach inside this area. We'll be taking hold of each of those rods and pulling them towards the center to release the tailgate. With the tailgate down, we have clear access to our 3 T30 Torx screws. Now when we remove all 3 of these, there will be nothing else holding that handle inside the tailgate. So for the last one, we'll make sure we're holding onto it. This one's nice and loose. I'll leave it in a couple threads and fully remove the other 2. There's one. Now, as I said, I'll take hold of that handle and fully remove this final bolt. Now we can lift up on the tailgate without fully closing it and remove that handle. This part can be a little bit difficult trying to get it out of here. There it is, friends. All right, let's get ready to install that brand new handle. We'll start with the lower aspect. Swing that down and into position. Now at this point, we'll hold it in place, lower the tailgate, and align all 3 of those mounting bolt holes. Just move this around until we can find where they're located. I've got one here. Start this one in. You never want to tighten any of your mounting bolts until all 3 of them are started into the proper position, and always start them in by hand. Once they're started, snug them up. Right there is bottomed out. let's just make sure it's nice and snug by bringing it a little further. Do the same to all. Bottomed out. There we are. Confirm you tightened all 3 of these mounting screws. Let's close that tailgate, and now we can start dealing with those rods. Let's continue on to each of our rods. Now to do this, my hands are going to be a little bit in the way, but essentially we are going to hold onto this rod, we'll remove our tape from the area, and then slide our rod into the handle. After that, we'll bring that hook right on over and lock it over the rod. Just gonna pull this over with a hook. Typically you can just use your hands for this, but I'm trying to give you a good view. We'll make sure that's pressed in as far as it can. And now we can bring that locking plastic hook up and over the rod as I had mentioned. Once you feel as though you have it in the proper position, you need to grab onto it and try to give it a little tug. It's only pressed into plastic, so we don't want to break it, but you do want to make sure it's secure so it does not fall off while you're driving down the road. Otherwise, you're going to have an issue opening your tailgate. You've seen how to do this one. We'll do the exact same thing on the other side. Double check that one. Perfect. Now let's test the functionality before we continue on. Let's get ready to install our tailgate bezel. Now while doing this, we're going to come in at an angle, starting with the top up and under this area, and then we'll roll the bottom aspect in to lock it in the proper position. Keep in mind while doing this, if you were putting in the bezel and you gave this too much of a tug, the tailgate might release on you. Be extremely careful. Slide this up behind here. Double check to make sure it's locked in all the way around. Okay friends, we fully installed our tailgate handle. We already tested it, so we know it functions properly. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.